Hey there. Back on May 29, 2025, a massive crypto money laundering case. The largest one globally actually went to trial at Southwark Crown Court in the UK. Here is the crazy part. The criminal mastermind who showed up in court was a woman, a totally average-looking Chinese woman nobody would look twice at. Back in 2017, a woman of Chinese descent living over in the UK scored a job with an insanely huge salary. Before all this, she just drove deliveries for a local Chinese takeout spot. She lived in a tiny, cramped room right underneath the restaurant. But the second she took this gig, her whole life flipped upside down. She moved straight into a luxury mansion and started dropping crazy cash on high-end designer gear. She couldn't even contain herself. She spilled all her wild excitement into her personal diary, writing, "Whoever called you broke, just watch me pull in millions right now." But her massive glow-up is not exactly some inspiring success story. Actually, it was tied to serious danger. Inside her house, police found a small scrap of paper with one terrifying sentence scribbled right on it: "If they break the Bitcoin password, I am dead." What in the world did that cryptic little note actually mean? And how did a takeout driver manage to rake in so much cash? In the first place, today, let us look at an absolutely baffling, highly complex crypto case stretching across both China and the UK. From the fall of 2017 to the end of 2018, right in the London housing market, a mysterious buyer randomly showed up. Her name was Jian Wen. She went on a massive viewing spree, touring over a dozen luxury mansions back to back. She planned to buy 3 of them, priced around £4.5 million, which is about 135 billion dong. Then £12.5 million, nearly 375 billion dong. And finally, £23.5 million, almost 705 billion dong. In Western countries, when flipping or buying real estate, beyond just talking to brokers, you also have to use a lawyer to officially close out the deal. When purchasing one of these mansions, Jian Wen used a crypto exchange platform to swap her Bitcoin into £850,000. That is roughly 25.5 billion dong. She wired it directly to the law firm as a massive down payment for the property. But she entirely misjudged how strict money laundering investigations can be over in Europe. A lawyer named Sue from Mishcon, an elite UK law firm, needed to make sure the sale was totally clean, so he demanded Jian Wen prove exactly where those funds originated. But Jian Wen seemingly could not explain where this Bitcoin actually came from. Even weirder, back in 2016, her official declared income was just £5,979. That is roughly 180 million dong. Also, when signing the property contract, Jian Wen used her name but demanded that after holding the property for a year, it had to be unconditionally transferred to her boss, Zhang Yadi. These super sketchy moves immediately raised massive red flags for the entire law firm. Worse, thanks to the questionable origins and the non-stop flow of huge cash transfers, the anti-money laundering unit of the UK police had actually been watching Jian Wen closely for a long time. After digging deep, detectives figured out that this ridiculous overnight, rags-to-riches fairy tale of Jian Wen was incredibly fishy. Back in 2016, she was still just an employee at a Chinese takeout spot over in Abbey Wood in southeast London. Yet by 2017, Jian Wen completely rebranded herself into a wildly successful international jewelry entrepreneur, traveling across Japan, Thailand, and China for business. She moved into a huge mansion worth £5 million up in Hampstead, North London, where her monthly rent hit a crazy £17,000. That is, basically 510 million dong every month. She stuck her son in an elite private school where tuition cost up to £6,000 a term, which comes out to roughly 180 million dong a term. And get this, her daily ride got a huge upgrade too, swapping her busted delivery scooter for a slick Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Her grocery runs went from cheap discount supermarkets to Harrods, the ultimate high-end department store. Spending records show Jian Wen was blowing an average of £30,000 every single month just at Harrods. Over in Dubai, she dropped a cool £500,000 on a luxury apartment. In Italy, she won the bidding war on a gorgeous, historic seaside villa. It was worth £10 million. And at a Van Cleef & Arpels boutique in Switzerland, she casually dropped £70,000. Then she threw down another £75,000, just buying diamonds at a private jeweler. So, did Jian Wen hit the lottery or something? Or suddenly inherit a massive family fortune? Nope, not even close. In reality, Jian Wen was born on December 25, 1981, over in China. She came from a completely ordinary working-class family, and for the first half of her life things were totally average. Later on, she met a British guy named Marcus Barraclough. In 2007, at 26 years old and pregnant, Jian Wen moved to the UK with her husband, but their relationship quickly fell apart right after. Their baby was born, and they divorced in 2010. After the split, life got incredibly rough. Just to provide for her son, she had to juggle multiple jobs at once, from cleaning hotel rooms to waiting tables at local restaurants. She was grinding from dawn till dusk. It felt like an endless nightmare with zero way out. There was even a point where she had to send her son back to China for a bit, because she honestly just could not handle working all those hours while raising a little kid. Her living conditions were awful too. She was either crashing in a tiny attic above a takeout joint or cramming into a shared bedroom with her co-workers in run-down, shady apartments. But despite the struggle, Jian Wen never gave up. She always held on to her dream of becoming a lawyer. Even while working herself to the bone, she still squeezed in time to study. And she actually managed to earn a law diploma and an economics degree. In the summer of 2017, she headed to London alone, totally full of hope for the future. She thought the big city would give her a real shot, but those degrees did not magically change her life. She was still stuck working at a local Chinese takeout spot. Then came the woman who would completely turn her whole life upside down. Her name was Zhang Yadi. One day, Jian Wen happened to spot a job ad in a group chat. The pitch was simple. Since she traveled all over the UK for business, Miss Zhang was looking to hire someone fluent in Mandarin and English to be her personal assistant, and the pay was incredible. That massive salary alone was enough to instantly hook Jian Wen. She didn't hesitate and applied right away. The very first time they met was at the 5-star Royal Garden Hotel in Kensington. Zhang was decked out in traditional Thai clothing, looking surprisingly young, but she actually rolled up in a wheelchair. Zhang blamed it on a car accident. She also claimed to be an international, high-end jewelry businesswoman. She said she traveled constantly, and right now she needed to expand operations into the UK. But since her English was pretty weak, she needed someone to manage her daily life and help run the business. The pay was £4,000 a month, which is roughly 120 million dong. With an offer that good, Jian Wen accepted immediately. Once she started, her very first assignment was helping her new boss rent a luxury mansion. It was actually that massive 6-bedroom estate we mentioned earlier, located in Hampstead Hill, North London. The rent was a staggering £17,000 every single month. And to make caring for Zhang easier, Jian Wen obviously moved into the mansion with her. Not long after that, Zhang told her to bring her son back from China. She even arranged for the boy to attend an exclusive private school and paid for the entire thing herself. But what made Jian Wen happier than anything else was that Zhang actually gifted her a Mercedes to drive around in. From then on, Jian Wen's daily job was literally just helping Zhang go shopping. We are talking designer watches, high-end jewelry, all the way to prime real estate properties around the world. She was constantly flying overseas with her boss on these insane multi-million-dollar shopping sprees. They called it work, but honestly, it felt like an endless, all-expenses-paid luxury vacation. To Jian Wen, Yadi Zhang seemed incredibly gentle, totally approachable, and overwhelmingly generous. She was a true lifesaver who dragged her right out of a dark abyss. Jian Wen felt like she had just had a massive stroke of luck drop right into her lap. But at the time, Jian Wen had absolutely no idea that this so-called luck was completely poisoned. In the early hours of October 31, 2018, United Kingdom police raided a red brick mansion in Hampstead, North London. This was the exact home of Jian Wen and her boss, Yadi Zhang. The main guy leading this intense search was senior anti-money laundering investigator for the United Kingdom Police, Joe Ryan. When authorities pulled up, Jian Wen was sitting in her Mercedes in the driveway, getting ready to leave. Multiple officers quickly surrounded her car and told Jian Wen they were going to search the property. At first, Jian Wen flat out refused, but the police flashed the search warrant and warned her that if she just used her key to unlock the front door, things would go a lot smoother. If not, they would be forced to break it down. After some tense back and forth, Jian Wen finally opened up. The cops spotted Yadi Zhang, who had trouble walking, staying in an upstairs bedroom. Inside Jian Wen's room, they uncovered a massive pile of physical cash, totaling almost 69,000 British pounds. Over the next few hours, officers thoroughly searched laptops, tablets, and a pink device securely tucked away inside a metal lockbox. When police caught Jian Wen frantically trying to delete apps off her iPhone, they ordered her to hand over the phone right then, hidden inside the case of another iPhone. Cops also found 2 $500 bills, plus a handwritten piece of paper stuffed with a list of passwords. The very next day, on November 1st, investigators kept searching the house. This time, they uncovered a safe. Inside was a crypto cold wallet holding over 61,000 Bitcoin. As you probably know, digital currency is totally decentralized and has incredibly low barriers to entry, while offering high anonymity. In recent years, it has become a huge playground for money laundering rings. When United Kingdom police finally seized access to this massive Bitcoin stash, back in 2021, those 61,000 Bitcoin were worth about 1.4 billion British pounds, which is roughly 42 trillion Vietnamese dong. And if you calculate that based on the absolute highest Bitcoin price ever recorded, which sits around $125,500 a coin, then the total value of this Bitcoin stash skyrockets to a staggering $7.65 billion. This is hands down the largest Bitcoin money laundering case ever, the biggest bust United Kingdom law enforcement has ever seen. On top of that, police found highly detailed notes tracking cryptocurrency trades. Inside Jian Wen's personal notebook, one page clearly showed this totally chilling sentence written out: "If they manage to crack the Bitcoin password, I am completely dead." So where did this massive pile of crypto that Jian Wen and her boss Yadi Zhang were holding actually come from? What exactly did United Kingdom police uncover? To understand all of this, we have to trace the true identity of Yadi Zhang. Her real name is actually Zhimin Qian, and Yadi Zhang was honestly just one of her many, many fake identities. Back in May 2014, a firm named Limited Liability Electronic Technology, Tianjin Lantian Green Tech, was officially set up and registered, according to the public. Details from the business. Lantian Green Tech mostly pushed wealth management products across the entire country. The company aggressively marketed their self-developed financial tech, smart care gadgets for the elderly. They also managed a ton of investment products, specifically short-term wealth management plans. These investment periods usually ran from 6 to 30 months. They promised a minimum annual return rate of 100%, peaking at a staggering 300%, an absolutely wild number, and the true mastermind pulling the strings. Behind this whole operation was the exact same mysterious boss standing right behind Jian Wen, who we just talked about, Zhimin Qian. But the crazy thing is, at the time, absolutely nobody knew her real name. Everyone just called her Hua Hua. At almost every single promotional event hosted by Lantian Green Tech, Hua Hua was always front and center. The catch was, she never showed her face. Instead, she always wore a pink and white face veil, and she would literally roll through the auditorium aisles in a wheelchair. Sometimes, people would even hoist her high up in the air, wheelchair and all. Crowds would desperately swarm her, chanting the ultimate slogan, "You give Green Tech 3 years, Green Tech will give you back 3 lifetimes of wealth." That was the catchy slogan for Green Tech Lamthian. As for Hoa Hoa herself, hardly any investor actually knew her real story. Folks just passed around standard promo packets by word of mouth, mixed in with wild, unproven rumors. Green Tech Lamthin pitched Hoa Hoa as a Tsinghua University grad who held double doctorates. She supposedly studied in the United States as a finance whiz. Their pitch events had strict rules for the thousands of investors showing up. No phones allowed, absolutely zero photos or videos. Their excuse was that since Hoa Hoa had brought so much new tech from the United States to launch the startup, leaking any company secrets outside would get her punished by the United States government. So, what kind of futuristic tech did she actually bring back from America? Well, that brings us right to their flagship tech product, the Bracelet of Life. According to her main pitch, this medical band had a built-in chip to accurately track any target within 15 meters using dual GPS and Beidou networks. With this device, no senior citizen would ever go missing again. If seniors needed help, they just smacked a red button on the wristband and an ambulance would show up within 10 minutes. Green Tech Lamthin even launched a dedicated Bracelet of Life service center and opened up over 200 physical storefronts just for it. On top of that, Green Tech Lamthin also rolled out an anti-smog air purifier called Dai Lam. They bragged it could scrub the air totally clean across a 300 square meter room every 15 minutes in packed areas. Viruses, smog, and basically any toxic particles would be wiped out entirely. They also pitched a smart seatbelt to stop driver fatigue, which supposedly had another chip. If it caught you dozing off at the wheel, it would blast an automatic warning based on your heart rate and breathing patterns. But obviously, just selling a few gimmicky gadgets wasn't enough to pull in serious venture capital. So, Green Tech expanded its whole operation into Bitcoin mining, since crypto was absolutely exploding back then. To convince backers the company was legit, they paid out of pocket to fly these investors all the way to Tianjin to tour their massive Bitcoin farm. But upon arriving, The mining rigs were completely dead. The company simply explained. They worried the machine radiation might hurt the investors' health, so they pulled the plug. Long story short, hooked by fancy startup pitches and flashy tech projects, plenty of people decided to throw their money in. A schoolteacher from Wuxi County in Chongqing, who went by the nickname Zhang Ge, heard about the startup through a recommendation from an old classmate, just looking to test the waters early on. Zhang Ge and his wife dropped 60,000 yuan each, roughly 200 million dong, into the Cardivo merger plan. According to the contract, this fund would pay out cash dividends every single workday for 30 straight months after buying in, and those payouts would steadily climb every 6 months. For example, from month 1 to 6, they would score 100 yuan back every workday. From month 7 to 12, that daily return doubled to 200 yuan. By month 13 through 18, they hit 300 yuan per workday. And during the final 6 months, the payout spiked to 500 yuan, which equals about 1.65 million dong. Zhang Ge kept a very close eye on it, noticing that green tech lamb Thien actually paid out the returns exactly as promised. Doing the math, they could make back their entire initial seed money under 20 months and double their profit by 30. Thrilled by those massive returns, he poured even more cash in. By July 2017, when the startup went completely bust, he had dumped in over 1 million yuan total, which is roughly 3.3 billion dong. But the ugly truth? Green tech Lam Thien was just a massive Ponzi scheme in disguise. By building a multi-level pyramid system, the fraud quickly expanded nationwide, and those Bitcoin mining rigs the investors toured, nothing but a pile of dead junk that couldn't even power up by 2017, when the whole operation collapsed. These mining rigs were sold as scrap metal for 30 yuan apiece. That is roughly 100,000 dong. Their supposed high-tech gadgets, like that Smart Life wristband, the anti-smog air purifier, and the Dubai electronic sterilizer, were really just cheap goods bought wholesale from factories in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and the Jiangsu and Zhejiang regions. But here is the truth. These gadgets could never generate a profit margin of 300% a year. This classic Ponzi scheme setup of using new investors to pay off the older ones is honestly nothing new. Blue Sky Green Tech and their shady tricks had actually been exposed before. Way back on May 17, 2016, Blue Sky Green Tech manager Wu Xiaolong got reported for being tangled up in a pyramid scheme. Right during a pitch at a Linhai City business hotel in Nuling, he and another organizer were slapped with criminal detention. The charge? Suspicion of illegal fundraising. Once Wu Xiaolong was busted, Hua scrambled to pull strings everywhere, thanks to the connections of the former deputy secretary of the Linhai Water Supply Company, Huo Jian, the police officer in charge of the case, Zhang Li, who was deputy captain of the Economic Crime Division back then, quickly processed bail for Wu Xiaolong. Behind closed doors, Huo Jian and Zhang Li took heavy bribes, 6.7 million yuan, roughly 22.1 billion dong, and 8.3 million yuan, or 27.4 billion dong. With Wu Xiaolong quietly back on the streets, this massive scam kept running for over a year. But a dangerous game of hot potato never lasts forever. On May 27, 2017, the company suddenly stopped paying out refunds, blaming it on a fake financial system upgrade. But the brutal reality? By that point, the entire operation was totally bankrupt, meaning the fresh cash from new victims just was not enough to pay off the early investors. When angry investors started asking questions, the company brazenly claimed that government officials ordered a strict internal audit of the business and promised that right after it finished, refunds would start flowing again. But a whole week dragged by, and there was still absolutely zero progress. That is when a massive wave of scammed investors finally called the cops. Official legal records show that from August 2014 to July 2017, this operation raked in over 40.2 billion yuan, that is, roughly 132.6 trillion dong. That cash came from nearly 130,000 victims. Subtract 34.1 billion yuan for fake payouts, 210 million yuan for daily expenses, and 120 million yuan dumped into that life wristband project. Every single remaining cent flowed straight into Huahua's deep pockets. One victim said their mother got buttered up by the sales team, taking a free luxury cruise trip to Japan. After that, she sank around 25 million yuan, straight into one of Blue Sky Green Tech's fake wealth management products. But the interest she actually earned back was not even half her initial investment. Once the company went under, she has only ever managed to get a refund of 1.6 million yuan. By the time police finally launched an investigation into this massive illegal fundraising scheme, the criminal mastermind, Huahua, was already gone. You see, right after the company started up, Qian Zhimin, using the fake name Huahua, used massive salaries and fat bonuses as bait to hook an ordinary employee, Ren Jiangdao. She convinced him to become the sole shareholder and the official legal representative. According to Ren Jiangdao, he actually met Qian Zhimin playing video games online. Because he followed her every single command inside the game, she invited him to work at the company. His title? The legal representative of Blue Sky Green Tech. Ren claimed that she gave him a firm guarantee that if the business ever got into trouble, she would step right up and help him dodge any legal heat. But back then, they only shook hands on a verbal agreement. If he stuck around for 3 solid years, Qian Zhimin promised a massive payout. She offered him a cool 1 million yuan. On top of that, his promised monthly salary was 30,000 yuan. But honestly, Ren Jiangdao only pocketed between 12,000 and 15,000 yuan a month, and he only saw those paychecks for barely over 6 months before the money dried up entirely, and that 1 million yuan bonus she promised completely vanished into thin air. Behind the scenes, Qian Zhimin was busy. She opened a Bitcoin crypto wallet under Ren Jiangdao's name, and she traded massive piles of Bitcoin, pushing funds across various cryptocurrency exchanges. Of course, every single dime stayed tightly inside Qian Zhimin's control. Back then, actively trading Bitcoin was entirely legal inside China, so Qian Zhimin could easily grab her dirty money and funnel it straight into Bitcoin on virtual currency exchanges. Plus, strict regulations for monitoring crypto assets, they simply had not been written yet. And a global system to track crypto money laundering? That was years away. So Qian Zhimin washed her digital coins with zero resistance, paving her perfect escape abroad. Honestly, you could argue that China's later crackdown to outright ban all trading and completely outlaw cryptocurrency activities was, at least in part, triggered by this exact criminal case. So how exactly did Qian Zhimin game the entire system and run this proxy scam without breaking a sweat? Here is the kicker. That green tech lamb-themed fraud, it was far from her first rodeo pulling a massive con. Court records from the People's Court over in Yaohai district of Hefei City revealed that back in late May 2013, Qian Zhimin used the phony alias Li He she launched a shell company called UBS Hong Kong International Group, and she dangled a fake camellia oil investment project just to hook unsuspecting victims and start recruiting new members, to build a shiny, believable front to rope those people in. Li He made her first move on the Fuyongquan Rice Oil Company and boldly promised she was going to buy massive product batches, upwards of 700,000 yuan worth of pure camellia oil. After enough sweet-talking and corporate negotiations, the two sides actually inked a formal partnership, and under this new deal, the Fuyongquan Rice Oil Company agreed to provide office space for UBS Hong Kong International Group directly inside their factory compound. And right after moving in, Li He began her performance. Day after day, she would parade around, leading entire crowds of potential investors on guided tours, flashing the factory grounds to trick them into believing that her incredibly lucrative camellia oil investment was the real deal. Then she would smoothly reel them in, pitching an exclusive VIP membership system where every single person only had to drop 2,800 yuan to get access, and once they joined the club, they could buy all the camellia oil at a massive 40 to 50% discount for life. At the exact same time, she tied their bonuses straight to how many downline recruits they pulled in, to hand out quick bonuses and promise bigger profits. Honestly, just hearing this setup, you probably already smell exactly what this was, a classic pyramid scheme. It seriously does not get any more textbook than this hustle. But the Fuyongquan Rice Oil Company? Yeah, they definitely weren't idiots. They quickly grew suspicious of those daily tour groups that Li He kept dragging through their doors, noticing the sketchy mix of obvious actors and real marks. So they immediately killed all the guided tours and completely pulled the plug on her rented office space, kicking her right out of their factory compound. By May, the Fuyongquan Rice Oil Company fully terminated their production partnership with UBS Hong Kong International Group. By mid-June, his entire Ponzi operation suddenly stopped paying out returns. Her convenient excuse was that their system got hacked, claiming the website was under emergency maintenance and all their payment accounts, managed by third-party platforms, were completely frozen. By November, that shiny international group, UBS Hong Kong, finally triggered a massive police investigation. But the true mastermind dodged the bullet, pinning everything on a scapegoat named Zhao. He ended up catching a harsh 2-year prison sentence for organizing and single-handedly running a fraudulent pyramid scheme. Meanwhile, Qian Zhimin, safely hiding behind that Li He alias, slipped away, landing in a completely separate criminal case. Barely a year later, Qian Zhimin popped right back onto the radar in Tianjin, registering and launching the green tech lamb-themed fraud. And she played out the exact same investment scam all over again. Honestly, this is the real reason why Qian Zhimin never dared to show her face in public and absolutely refused to let a single photo be snapped during those huge investor pitches. For Green Tech Lamteen, she was deeply terrified someone might spot the wanted fraudster, and the only reason Qian Zhimin dared to act so incredibly reckless was simply because her getaway plan was completely mapped out, written down right there in her personal diary. She actually hatched a wild plan. First, she needed to buy her very own micronation, the Free Republic of Liberland. It's a tiny, empty island right out there on the Danube River. A Czech politician founded the place back in 2015. Calling it a private micronation meant it totally bypassed the laws of any existing country. Even without official international recognition, Liberland still had its own flag and its own currency, plus a full constitution. Qian Zhimin even planned to build Europe's largest Buddhist temple right there on the island. Next, she wanted someone to crown her as a reincarnated goddess and the Queen of Liberland. By doing all that, she figured she'd easily score diplomatic immunity. Obviously, this whole scheme was completely unhinged, and actually pulling it off was going to be nearly impossible in real life. So, Qian Zhimin played it safe and just bought a Myanmar passport under the name Nam Yin. After that, she used the alias Zhang Yadi to snag a second passport from St. Kitts and Nevis. Thanks to their local immigration policy, you just had to donate 150,000 US dollars, about 3.7 billion Vietnamese dong, to the government's Sustainable Development Fund. Or you could buy local real estate. You didn't even have to live there or visit. You just waited about 3 months for a brand new passport from the island nation. With that document in hand, you could travel visa-free to 155 countries and territories, like the UK, Ireland, Russia, and others. In July 2017, when the authorities back home cracked down and started investigating the Blue Sky Green case, Qian Zhimin made a quick choice to run. She grabbed a black Lenovo laptop, holding a crypto wallet loaded with billions of pounds in Bitcoin. She used her Myanmar passport to cross the border into Laos, then flashed her St. Kitts passport to fly straight from Laos all the way to the UK. You could honestly say her timing was an absolute miracle. Right after she slipped away, on May 4, 2017, the People's Bank of China and 7 other government ministries jointly issued a massive crackdown on the financial risks attached to token offerings. Just like that, crypto exchanges totally blocked all channels for turning Chinese yuan into digital currency. Qian Zhimin had survived a brutal car wreck before all this. Even with her fresh identity as Zhang Yadi, she still couldn't hide her heavy breathing and the fact she could barely walk. She had zero choice but to hire someone to run her errands and to help her cash out her massive Bitcoin stash or trade it for physical valuables. That is exactly how her path finally crossed with Jian Wen. Qian Zhimin had an insane amount of cryptocurrency on her hands, even buying endless luxury bags, gold and silver, and hoarding expensive jewelry. She simply couldn't spend it fast enough. So, she turned to real estate in London's most exclusive neighborhoods. In October 2017, LP, the co-founder of a London property firm, suddenly made massive waves in the real estate market. He listed a giant 3-story mansion for £23.5 million, which equals about 705 billion Vietnamese dong. It boasted 8 bedrooms and a private indoor pool, sitting right on the Bishop's Avenue in Hampstead. The catch? You could only buy the house using Bitcoin. LP boldly claimed this was the perfect way to bring the blockchain revolution into the property market. But honestly, everyone knew that thanks to annoying realities like taxes and land registration, buying a house straight with crypto was way ahead of its time. Even so, this £23.5 million mansion, marketed as a crypto-exclusive buy, did exactly what LP predicted. It sparked a total media frenzy, and it hauled in a ton of rich clients for LP. Those 2 magic words, mansion and Bitcoin, grabbed Qian Zhimin's attention. She immediately ordered Jian Wen to contact LP. Over the next month, LP's crew took the 2 women on 3 separate property tours across London's wealthiest neighborhoods. They checked out a handful of places each trip. A guy on LP's team noticed Qian Zhimin was on the heavy side, moved pretty slowly, but seemed incredibly polite, always thanking them for setting things up. Meanwhile, Jian Wen treated her like royalty, carefully helping her in and out of the car every single stop, dealing with stairs, Whenever Qian Zhimin just didn't want to make the climb, Kim would jog up and down to scout the property. Afterward, she would hand over a full breakdown right back to her boss. But after touring endless luxury homes, the single property that Qian Zhimin really wanted was still that £23.5 million mega mansion. If she loves it, just grab it. Cash is absolutely not an issue. Like we talked about before, buying property over in the West always requires a lawyer. Elle connected Kim with attorney James Liverton from London's absolute top firm, Megai. While chatting, Kim explained to James that she would personally sign the real estate contract, but exactly 1 year later, the property deed had to flip over to the actual buyer, and that was Qian Zhimin. James asked Kim if this whole setup was strictly about privacy. Kim claimed she had no clue, just following orders from the boss. Meanwhile, she turned right around and told the property broker LP that they desperately wanted to close the deal using Bitcoin. Oh, and they needed the lawyer's blind to where that crypto came from. To push the sale through, NP connected Kim with a registered third-party service, regulated by the British Financial Conduct Authority, named XM Parlor. This outfit helped Kim swap out £850,000 in Bitcoin. They also drafted a formal report backing up the funding source. The document swore up and down that the money was totally clean. In February 2018, £850,000 landed right in the law firm's escrow account. At this point, Kim and Qian Zhimin figured the property buy was a locked deal, so they booked a private ride and took off straight to Zurich, Switzerland to celebrate. But once they got back from vacation, the whole thing had completely collapsed. The seller out of nowhere jacked up the asking price, so Qian Zhimin walked away, and just like that, it was totally dead. But fairly soon, the agent managed to find Kim and Qian Zhimin another flawless luxury mansion listed at £12.5 million. This place also boasted 12 bedrooms, along with a massive home theater, a gym, and a sauna. But right around then, the shady moves of Kim and Qian Zhimin finally grabbed the spotlight of anti-money laundering watchdogs. Boom, their bank accounts got locked down. Kim scrambled to open fresh ones elsewhere. Qian Zhimin suggested an American bank instead. She told her, just go set up an account there to test the waters. I hear they love massive cash dumps and look the other way. But after taking in a giant wire transfer of $276,000, which translates to roughly 72 billion dong, the American bank slammed Kim's account shut too. While trying to lock down this £12.5 million estate, the lawyers at Maui demanded Kim cough up far more details about where her crypto wealth actually originated. Initially, Kim played it cool, claiming her boss mined every single bit of that Bitcoin. They just conveniently had zero records. When the attorneys demanded the wallet address on the public blockchain, Kim stalled hard. Eventually, when she did hand over the details, the law firm realized the truth. This Bitcoin was clearly never mined at all. Real mined crypto comes from very specific, limited origin points, but the tokens tied to Qian Zhimin traced back to hundreds, including heavily mixed cryptocurrency exchanges. October 10, 2018, John, the British anti-money laundering investigator we talked about earlier, fired off an email warning Kim that cops had fully frozen her £850,000, all that cash just sitting stuck in the escrow account of her legal team. Then, on October 31st and November 1st, 2018, The authorities tore through the shared house of On Kiem and Tian Zhimin for 2 straight days. Thanks to a totally lucky lack of hard evidence, neither On Kiem nor Tian Zhimin got cuffed or locked up right then. 6 months later, the cops even gave back their seized passports, free to go, Tian Zhimin. And On Kiem dove right back into the crypto laundering game. That is, until August 2020, when the squad rolled back up to their door and raided the entire place again. By then, Qian Zhimin had already vanished. Jian Wen was left holding £40,000, the rental deposit, and a Mercedes-Benz A-Class. On May 25, 2020, the lease on the mansion where Jian Wen and Qian Zhimin lived finally expired. Jian Wen swore she never saw Qian Zhimin again. After the mastermind vanished, Jian Wen and her son moved back into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in South London. With her high-paying crypto gig gone, Jian Wen went back to working at a restaurant. In May 2021, Officer J.D. searched her place and arrested her in the early morning hours of May 30th of that same month. 4,000 of those 61,000 seized Bitcoin had already been moved out, amounting to a staggering £100 million. That is roughly 3 trillion dong. A few days later, almost 500 more Bitcoin got moved. Qian Zhimin was likely pulling the strings. In May 2023, Jian Wen made her very first appearance at Southwark Crown Court. She faced 12 counts of money laundering and holding illegal crypto assets. But after 11 hours and 13 minutes of jury deliberation, she was cleared on 10 counts. The jury just could not reach a verdict on the remaining 2. Anti-money laundering investigator George Ryan, who sat through the trial, was completely floored. You have to admit her lawyer, Mark Harris, is a genius. He completely painted Jian Wen as an innocent nobody, who got totally played and manipulated by Qian Zhimin. Jian Wen even broke down crying multiple times in court, swearing she had no clue who the generous John Yadi really was, much less where all that Bitcoin came from. She swore she was just a blind pawn in a crypto laundering scheme, but the UK prosecutors were not buying her innocent victim act. They argued Jian Wen knew exactly how illegal this whole operation was. Otherwise, she never would have written, "If they crack the Bitcoin password, I am dead," in her diary. Back in December 2017, Jian Wen actually asked an accountant friend if she should help a buddy cash out £2 million of Bitcoin through her own personal bank account. She asked him about the tax risks, but her accountant friend warned her, "Honestly, I would be way more worried about money laundering than taxes. Personally, this could get me investigated for laundering crypto. I would not touch it." In May 2018, Jian Wen drove Qian Zhimin down to Switzerland for a getaway. She made absolutely sure they avoided the Italian border because Qian Zhimin was a wanted fugitive, and Italy would probably extradite her to China. In fact, on every single trip she booked for Qian Zhimin, Jian Wen dug into whether the destination country or the transit stops had an active extradition treaty with China. That proves she knew exactly who Qian Zhimin really was. At the bare minimum, she knew she was hiding a Chinese fugitive. Besides, Jian Wen herself was heavily into the Bitcoin market. By late May 2017, Jian Wen rapidly opened accounts on 2 different crypto exchanges based in the UK and Denmark. On May 18, 2024, Jian Wen appeared in court for a second time to face those 2 lingering unresolved charges. This time around, thanks to some new evidence, she caught an extra charge during this trial. The jury reached a majority verdict, nailing her on one of the 3 money laundering counts. On the 24th, the British court officially convicted Jian Wen for money laundering and slapped her with a prison sentence of 6 years and 8 months. Because of the sheer massive scale involved, Jian Wen was classified as a Category A prisoner. That means the highest possible risk level, the kind who, if they escape, pose a massive threat to the public, police, and national security. As for Qian Zhimin, who is still on the run, there is heavy speculation that the UK police let her slip away on purpose. Because if the mastermind stays missing, then this massive crypto fortune naturally becomes an untraceable cold case. Word was, it might just go to the United Kingdom. But those rumors totally fell apart in April 2024. That happened right after Qian Zhimin got arrested. On April 24th, she made her first court appearance at the Westminster Magistrates Court over in the UK. According to the charges from British prosecutors, Qian Zhimin gathered, used, and held criminal assets across several different locations throughout the UK, from October 2017 straight through to April 2024, but Qian Zhimin denied every single charge. Her defense lawyer made it clear they would fight this case hard. Yet, on May 29, 2025, maybe finally realizing the rock-solid evidence of her crimes was impossible to deny, Qian Zhimin pleaded guilty right there in court to the charges of laundering money through Bitcoin. The whole trial was set to drag on for 12 weeks. Lots of Chinese victims were ready to testify through a live video feed. Qian Zhimin's official sentencing date still has not been set. As for those 61,000 bitcoins she illegally racked up through shady fundraising schemes, they have turned into a total nightmare to sort out. Even though back in June 2019, the Hedong District Police Department in Tianjin put out a status update, basically saying that 50 suspects tied to the Blue Sky Green Tech scandal, including Ren Jiangdao, were officially busted, and 28 people were handed over for prosecution. But the dirty money linked to this massive fraud still has not been sent back home to China. A finance professor over at Fudan University, who is also the executive director of the China Anti-Money Laundering Research Center, Yan Lixin, told Phoenix News that the UK Crown Prosecution Service filed a civil recovery lawsuit right in the High Court to figure out if there are any other legal owners, if nobody else or no rightful claimant steps up to the plate to claim and take back those funds. Once these crypto assets are officially seized, half of the money goes straight to the British police. The other half gets handed right over to the UK Home Office. The UK police really did put a huge amount of work into investigating and tracking down the suspects in this case. But you just cannot ignore the 130,000 victims of Blue Sky Green Tech. The Chinese government, the legal authorities, and the police certainly won't just sit back and watch. The problem is, handling cryptocurrency is still a huge global headache. For starters, proving clear ownership is incredibly tough. Bitcoin is totally anonymous and decentralized by design. Plus, it has no set pricing mechanism, and the value swings wildly. That makes pricing and processing it a nightmare. On top of that, the rules, regulations, and legal standards across different countries, along with their specific laws and rulings, completely clash. This makes global coordination painfully difficult. Right now, it looks like this cash is on the brink of coming home, but honestly, it is still a really long way from getting there. Just like the way Qian Zhimin carefully packaged herself, that fake identity shell still never brought her any real joy. Truth is, Qian Zhimin never had much formal education. Reports say she was born in September 1978 in Rugao, Jiangsu. She had a basic college diploma, was married once, and later got divorced. Since a terrible car crash left her with serious mobility issues, she ended up spending most of her days just stuck resting in bed. She lived on her laptop playing games, doing some online shopping, or trading Bitcoin just to pass time. According to Wen Jian, Qian Zhimin lived a really bleak life. She constantly had nightmares, waking up screaming in sheer panic in the dead of night. As for Wen Jian, she also paid a heavy price with her own days behind bars. In their short, totally delusional run, maybe that bottomless greed was the real root of all their misery. In the end, after all those twists and flat-out denials, Qian Zhimin, the woman who arrogantly thought she could buy a whole country to outrun the law, finally had to bow her head and plead guilty right there in court. She confessed to the charges tied to laundering dirty money through Bitcoin. Meanwhile, Wen Jian, a former delivery driver who just dreamed of turning her life around, traded it all for days. Stuck behind iron bars, she paid the ultimate price after getting sucked into a lavish illusion, driven completely by sheer greed and gullibility. But what about the fate of those hundreds of thousands of victims and that massive chunk of Bitcoin? Worth tens of billions, it is still one giant unresolved question mark left hanging in the air. It's a massive headache to sort out on the global stage. Sure, the ringleaders are finally behind bars, but the fight for justice and getting those stolen digital assets back to the victims, that's still an uphill battle. This whole case isn't just a warning about how complex these cryptocurrency frauds have gotten. It's also a pretty brutal reminder of how pure, unchecked greed drags people straight to rock bottom, destroying any shot at happiness and leaving their freedom as nothing but a pipe dream. That wraps up today's breakdown. I'll catch you guys in the next upload. Stay safe, and bye for now.